What kind of long jump Carl Lewis leap are we making here? They traded up to wreck his career. That's how diabolical the Browns are. They traded up so that they could say, screw the Sanders family. We're going to
show him.
Yeah, we're going to run a ball into the ground. What he's very clearly saying for anybody with a lick of common sense is when they left the building Friday night, when he kept falling and kept falling and kept falling on Saturday, regardless of whose decision it was to move up to get him, as an organization, they made the decision to move up to get him, not because they're trying to tank this poor kid's career, because they have a job open at quarterback.
He could be speaking to the city of Cleveland as if to say, don't blame me for this one. That is the man that gave Deshaun Watson guaranteed $230 million, which right now is going down as arguably the worst trade in NFL.
Training camp flashes by, and Shedeur Sanders has generated a lot of discussion. Why is he being held back by the Browns? Without a doubt, he is the best quarterback they have had in a long time. However, they are prioritizing players like Dylan Gabriel and pushing him down the depth chart. Louis Riddick and Stephen A. Smith raised eyebrows first, but now Jason Lloyd has joined in, and the pressure is mounting. Why is Shedeur Sanders, who is so talented, being kept off the field? Will the Browns come to regret this choice? Let's examine the dispute in detail and dissect it.
Snaps in this preseason, and let's see what he can do. But the idea that they're trying to sabotage him is so stupid that I just can't even, I'm just done. I can't even wrap my head around it. And to try and to manipulate what he said into some idea that he didn't want, or that they didn't.
James Lloyd didn't mince words when he criticized Browns management for what he perceives to be an obvious attempt to impede Shedeur Sanders' advancement. He specifically targeted Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the team, asking why he is obstructing a quarterback who is merely attempting to assist the squad. Shedeur has been working extremely hard, putting in the reps during training camp and demonstrating his strength each and every day, Lloyd noted. The Browns, however, are still attempting to restrain him in spite of everything. Lloyd asked a straightforward question. Why is the front desk attempting to undermine someone who is obviously working hard? James Lloyd continued after that. He criticized Haslam for attempting to control the story, stating that it is incorrect for an owner to assert that they did not want a rookie like Shedeur Sanders. Lloyd contends that an NFL owner has no right to make such disparaging remarks about a player, particularly a bright rookie who has been putting in a lot of effort to earn a spot. Lloyd said that there is no excuse for the type of remarks that have been directed against Shedeur and that it is absurd that Haslam would openly disparage him in this way. The emphasis should be on Shedeur's commitment to the game rather than these trivial remarks.
To manipulate what he said into some idea that he didn't want, or that they didn't want him. Like, I just don't understand how you can make that. I would love someone to logically explain.
Garrett Bush, on the other hand, held a different opinion. He retaliated by asserting that Shedeur Sanders could not be undermined. Bush maintained that Jimmy Haslam's remark would only harm him in the long run. Garrett asserts that a gifted player like Shedeur cannot be kept out of action for very long. Supporters will begin to doubt the choice, and Haslam and the Browns will come under increasing criticism. Bush stressed that it is improper for management to place a young player in this situation, especially when he is demonstrating that he is prepared to compete, even though he conceded that this tactic might backfire. Nor did Stephen Smith hold back. He was very critical of Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns. For his latest comments against Shedeur Sanders, Stephen went all out and called Haslam a coward. He attacked him, calling it a pitiful, blatant attempt to shift responsibility. Stephen claims that had nothing to do with Haslam taking responsibility for his errors. His attempt to hide shortcomings, particularly the fact that he hadn't drafted Shedeur in the first place, was feeble and desperate. Stephen made it obvious that Haslam's behavior was an all-time poor look and an evident attempt to shield ego.
Could be speaking to the city of Cleveland as if to say, don't blame me for this one. That is the man that gave Deshaun Watson guaranteed $230 million, which right now is going down as...
Stephen made it very evident that this was not an error. It has nothing to do with his game. It was intimate. This was a deliberate action, a direct message to Shedeur Sanders. And the message, in order to reach you, we'll pursue your son. The play was that was the strategy. Because, let's face it, a quarterback with Shedeur Sanders' level of skill had no football justification for dropping all the way to the 5th round. The sole reason is that some league members made absolutely sure he would.
Let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur. I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur.
Furthermore, Stephen A. Smith was not absolving Jimmy Haslam. Not for a moment. When Haslam casually stated on the way back that he didn't even consider signing Shedeur Sanders, Stephen focused on that assertion and called it out for what it was. Not haphazard or random, but a component of a much larger scheme. Stephen clarified everything. Passing on a player wasn't the only goal here. Making sure Shedeur never received the chance he deserved was the goal here. Stephen asserts that it went beyond front office politics. It was more than just poor scouting. Was deliberate. According to Stephen, Lamb and a few other people weren't only participating in the draft game. Prevent Shedeur from getting signed, they were aggressively working behind the scenes to keep him off the radar. This wasn't carelessness. It was sabotage.
Yeah, that's why Haslam was in his car on a Friday talking about, I can't see it happen.
Additionally, Shedeur Sanders has now spoken out about his son Shedeur Sanders, and his remarks are really impactful. Coach Prime talked candidly about Shedeur's improvement, work ethic, and approach during training camp coverage. Shedeur stated unequivocally that Shedeur was always ready for the interviews. Everything that has been said negatively about him is untrue. Shedeur made it apparent that he is familiar with his son.
And he's unflappable. We have been through so much as a family, as athletes, that he is prepared for everything. The only thing that really hurt me, when they started the line and saying he wasn't prepared or he was this or he came in with headphones on. I know my sheep. I know my son. I know what I raised. I know better than that. Shedeur ain't never.
It was Louis Riddick. He also wasn't having any of it. He broke down Haslam's remarks into their component parts. Shedeur Sanders was clearly not receiving fair treatment, and Riddick wasn't going to allow this false narrative to go unnoticed. He categorically rejected the notion that Shedeur was receiving an equal opportunity, characterizing it as a cover tale, a spin job, and a flagrant distortion of fact. Then Riddick said something that caused everyone to stop in the room. He made a really important point that everyone had entirely overlooked. Even his own father, Shedeur, was not permitted to observe Shedeur Sanders at training camp. Due to the fact that he was receiving subpar treatment. Every day for reps for. And Riddick asked the question that stopped everyone cold, staring directly into the camera. Is that reasonable?
And he's unflappable. We have been through so much as a family, as athletes, that he is prepared for everything. The only thing that really hurt me, when they started the line and saying he wasn't prepared or he was this or he came in with headphones on. I know my sheep. I know my son. I know what I raised. I know better than that. Shedeur ain't never.
Furthermore, Louis Riddick didn't mince words. He reminded everyone of the harsh reality of the NFL while remaining honest. You don't get chances when you're selected as low in the draft as Shedeur Sanders was. Only if someone in the building is prepared to stand up for you will you succeed. Standing on the table, someone says, "This child belongs here." However, that's precisely what made Riddick furious. Since no one in the organization is currently aware of who initially advocated for Shedeur. Who was it that thrust out their neck? Who had enough faith in him to mention him in that front office or war room? According to Rit, this kind of ambiguity and lack of support put Shedeur at even more of a disadvantage because in this league, you fall behind if no one is standing up for you. For a period. Ultimately, it's evident that Shedeur Sanders' predicament with the Cleveland Browns has ignited a tempest that is just growing. Still, why is a gifted individual like Shedeur being kept back when all the signs point to his being the future? The annoyance is evident from Jason Lloyd and Louis Riddick to Stephen A. Smith. There is a growing perception that Jimmy Haslam and the Browns' executive office are engaging in risky behavior. Furthermore, it goes beyond football. It's intimate. Lamb's remarks disparaging Shedeur and casting doubt on his value have sparked an unavoidable backlash. The sabotage and manipulation are being called out by Lloyd and others. Garrett Bush clarifies that fans and the league will soon want answers, regardless of how much they attempt to silence Shedeur. Shedeur's strongest supporter, Shedeur Sanders, has also spoken out, reaffirming the notion that Shedeur has done nothing but put in a lot of effort and shown himself. The Browns will eventually be compelled to make a decision as the pressure increases. Either keep playing these games or look forward to the future with one of the best quarterbacks they've seen in a long time.